Carry on my golden sun. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. My name is Michael Knipp, and I'm here today to talk about Golden Sun by Pierce Brown, the sequel to Red Rising, which is a book that I loved, even though a lot of people aren't so hot on that first one. And I think the most accurate thing I could possibly say about Golden Sun when compared to Red Rising is that it's It's Put ER at the end of every single aspect of this book, and it's more than what Red Rising was. The stakes are higher, moments are bigger, the scope is so much larger, the darkness is darker, the gut-punching moments are more gut-punching. It's just a bigger book in every way. But unlike a lot of people who were in the situation where they didn't love the first one and then this one was just a big step up, for me it was just like, hey, the sequel is just going to be the next step up from everything we got in the first book. I'm not going to be talking spoilers for Golden Sun. A lot of people like to say that Red Rising is like a sci-fi Hunger Games. Well, that's a very limited scope. I also said in my first video, I don't think it's the best comparison, but it's a very limited scope of a book. And we know from fairly early on in the book, the framework of the first book. The second book just starts off, and the possibilities are so much greater than anything we sort of see in that very focused original book. And so the world building and the character growth that we got in those scenarios and the sorts of domino patterns that we got to see get stacked up and then knocked down by various characters, we get to see all of those things just to a larger degree in this book. So I feel like the reason that a lot of people love Golden Sun more than Red Rising is because it lives up to the potential that we sort of got teased in that first one. We get to see lots of the characters have grown in good and bad ways from their positions in the original Red Rising, and then we get to see that extrapolated out based on everything just being as tense as it possibly could be. Because Darrow's mission, once it's established in book one, is this very insanely risky, insanely far-fetched bet against logic and reason. But any successes that he saw in the first book almost make it harder, because once you've had a little bit of success, you realize just how far things could fall. And the struggles that Daryl had coming out of the end of the last book are only amplified by so many different factors in this one. And when I say that everything is sort of high stakes all the time, it shows in the pacing of the book as well. This book starts off fast-paced, and it really barely ever stops. There's very little smelling of the roses. In fact, I've talked to multiple of my friends who had the problem of there are so many insane things that happen in this book and so many plot twists that happen that sometimes you are still reeling from a plot twist and you don't have enough time to recover before something else crazy happens. I think the last time I used the term twist slash, I was referring to Gone Girl and how it was just one twist after another twist after another twist. This book is like that. And like I said, there's very little time between major events of the story. And the first book was really fast-paced, but I feel like there were still more moments of being able to settle and think about the sort of implications of what have happened for the rest of the story. There's very little time to do that. And Daryl and the other characters have very little time to do that as things progress, because dang, things escalate quickly, and I really like the way that that's done. It really did work for me. Sometimes I feel like stories, because they're stories, like to maybe overtake advantage of the fact that they're books to be able to sit and pause every single moment to give us an overabundance of internal monologuing, which I love. I do love. But when things are insane and you're in the middle of high stakes combat situations, you don't have time to think, oh, but what does this mean if this happened? No, crap is just going down. Bullets are flying. Things are blowing up. You gotta stay on your toes or you will die. And while you're on your toes and you might be about to die and you're fighting other people, you might have to make life-altering decisions or seriously detrimental decisions that could potentially throw off everything that you and everyone else has been working for. This is the type of scenario that we're thrown into in Golden Sun. And this is the type of pacing that we face. Speaking of things that are next level, Daryl is next level. Daryl, who in the first book was a character that I enjoyed. He was very introspective, a little Kaladin-like in his extreme melodrama. I feel like Daryl could be on the list of like most melodramatic characters that I've read and loved. If he was like that in the first book, and he definitely was. In book 2, Daryl is approaching Edward Cullen in Midnight Sun levels of mood. If I'm being realistic, I think that there's probably a subset of society that would think that he is a little much, but it's the right much for me. I love Darrow's extremeness, and Darrow's not the only one that's like this. Based on the society that he's placed in, from Red Rising, it's everybody, and there is some top-notch level, not petty, but also petty, insane melodrama. What's another word for melodrama? Like, it's like angst, but like ramped up, like grown up, just extreme emotions are turned to 10, and also half the characters are drama queens. They're not drama queens in a way that's like undeserved based on the story, but they are expressing their emotions to the fullest extent. The theming throughout the story, which is something I loved about the first book, maintains its high level of quality. I think Pierce Brown really nails that stuff. I think he continues to do a great job fleshing out his world and really makes you care about the individual decisions that have to be made. And I think that it's really easy to feel the weight of the potential consequences of something going wrong. And you will feel that at various times throughout the book. In the first book, I feel like some of the action was handled extremely well, and some of the action was handled less well. In this book, I feel like that's also true. There are fight scenes in this book that are amazing and awesome, and I'm super invested. I get chills. I like get emotional about it. I'm like, yes, let's do it. And then there are some fights where I'm like, you're describing this fight like someone that doesn't want to describe a fight. You're just kind of like, it's almost like storyboarded. And that mostly happens in the beginning of the book. Later on, I feel like there are some massively epic battles that happen that are awesomely described, almost poetically described. Not in a way where they just like glorify combat, because bad crap is happening constantly. But the moments that I'm sort of complaining about from the beginning of the story, they don't feel good. It kind of feels maybe like Brown was going for a little bit of a more artistic angle, and it flopped for me. But even the moments where I feel like the moment-to-moment combat prose was not my favorite, usually the stakes and the characters involved on both sides of the issue made the entire scenario tense enough that I still just really had to find out what was going to happen. I've heard a lot of people say that Pierce Brown's writing gets better in this book, and that may be the case. But for me, because this is all a first-person book and Darrow's narrative, it just felt like Darrow matured. Like, it felt natural to me. Like the staccato, really emphasized, maybe super choppy stuff in the first book felt like it really fit Darrow, and the increased level of detail and speculative societal and philosophical thoughts, as well as some of the slightly more poetic or majestic speeches or whatever that happen in the book, it just feels like it flows naturally with the evolution of Darrow's character. Like, I don't feel like it's just like a writing got better jarring thing. It also feels like it naturally fits well in the story, which is something that I loved. With all this being said, I think there is the potential that if you did not like the first book, for a lot of Red Rising fans to be like, if you don't like the first one, it doesn't matter. Like, the first one is not that good, and the second one is just better in every way. And on one level, kind of like I said earlier, that's true. The first one, like if you felt like it fell flat or parts of it just didn't work for you, this one could be the book that really makes it better, because in a lot of ways, it just ramps it up. But if you really didn't like the first book, I might have a hard time being on that camp of like, oh, you just got to read the second one, it'll get better. Because for me, the second one was just, hey, the things you liked about the first book, there's more, and we've raised the stakes. It doesn't feel like it was like, oh, this is a completely different thing. It feels more like, hey, this is the sequel that Red Rising deserved. That's what it feels like to me. So if you really hated the first one, I probably wouldn't recommend this one. If you were on the fence about the first one, I might. If you liked the first one or loved the first one, then yeah, you're probably gonna love this one too. I will say that this is a series that I sort of sat on. Like, I heard people talking about Red Rising when I first joined BookTube, but I heard it compared to The Hunger Games, which did not entice me. And that was a huge disservice. If I would have known that this was as awesome as it was, I would have jumped on it so much sooner because I really am loving it that much. It's hard for me to express without spoiling things just how invested I am in certain parts of this story, how much I love certain character relationships and dynamics, and how much I really, really hate others. And also how much I really love to hate some others and love to love the ones I love. Some of the scenarios we get in this book are just epic and massive on an extreme scale. Just like, sick, this would be amazing fan art. Why has this series not been pitched for adaptation into a movie? Because I feel like it could be awesome on the big screen level crap. Like, it's really good. If you haven't read this series and this sounds interesting to you, you should be reading it. You should not be watching this. Stop watching this. Go read it. But first, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. But yeah, I'm going to continue my glowing love for this series. And I've already started Morningstar because the way that this book ended, I had no choice. I had no choice but to start Morningstar ASAP. So yeah, freaking go read it. Thank you for watching this review. What do you think about Golden Sun? Have you read it? Please let me know if I have in some way convinced you to check out this series, because it is awesome and I did sleep on it too long. Did you read the first book? How did you feel about it? Is this something that you might want to check out after watching this review? Once again, if you're watching this review and you have not subscribed to the channel, please do. I can try to get you lots of other videos, reviews, other interesting discussion topics. If you want to talk about this book or anything else, there's a Discord linked in the description down below. Everybody can join it. And if you'd like to support the channel financially, there is also a link to a Patreon and a link to a merch store where you can buy shirts like this Book Fam shirt, which is like the name for the people on the Discord, the Book Fam, the Book Friends too. I am literally over halfway done with Morningstar, and I kind of just want to be reading it right now because I really, 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 really need to find out what happens. Thank you, my good men, for watching, and until next time, break the chains.
Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If it don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.